Ooh. Ooh. What happens if Biden becomes president of the United States? Is North Korea going to attack South Korea? South Korea and America, are they going to be friends? I don't know. Let's find out right now. All right, this is a little bit green. Is that nice? That's kind of cute. Ooh, blue's fun, but it's very blue. Maybe I should make that white. Hey, what's up, everyone? My name's Alex Sigrist, and I am trying to figure out the coolest light combination here. And I want to talk to you about Joe Biden and South Korea and North Korea a little bit. And what would happen if Joe Biden became president of the United States? Currently, he is leading in the polls for the United States presidential elections, but also Hillary Clinton was, and look where we are. But actually, I think overall, having Joe Biden in the White House would be a good thing for South Korea and U.S. relations. I don't think it'll be a huge difference between U.S. and North Korea or South Korea and North Korea relations, but I'll explain that at the end. It's just something I want to talk about because actually, a lot of people might think, well, you're just a YouTuber. What do you know about this kind of stuff? And the answer is not a lot, but I think I know a little more than the average YouTuber out there, I hope. I went to grad school at Seoul National University doing international studies as my master's degree, and I focused on East Asia, where we learn about, politics, economics, culture, just relationships between the countries in general. And I think I know a little bit about it. Plus, sometimes I do get to go on air on Korean radio and talk about current events and things that are trending in the news, and that will occasionally mean I get to talk about, well, this kind of stuff. So, if Biden wins, what does that mean for the United States? I need to fix this mic. There we go. A couple things I want to talk about. And the first point I want to make is that if Joe Biden becomes president of the United States, the almost immediate consequence I can think of will actually be related to an issue that many people don't talk about because it's not that interesting to some people, but cost sharing. The burden of keeping the U.S. military troops here on Korean soil, it costs money, and South Korea does pay a portion of those, not fees in the right, but the cost of keeping them here. Basically, according to the Yonhap news agency, South Korea has offered to boost its burden-sharing payment by 13% from the U.S. dollars $870 million, which is what they paid under last year's agreement. But the U.S. is reportedly asking for a 50% hike to $1.3 billion, while U.S. President Donald Trump is said to have initially demanded $5 billion per year from Seoul. We haven't had a president demand that much of an increase ever. So I think that's kind of a big thing right now, that if Biden becomes president, we won't demand as high an increase. Does that mean that South Korea is going to pay less when Biden becomes president? No, they're going to keep paying at an increased rate every single year. But it is kind of ridiculous in my mind that U.S. President Donald Trump would demand $5 billion because this is just one of his Art of the Deal strategies that, by the way, he didn't even write that book, so I don't know why I even said it's Art of the Deal strategy. It's one of those things that he's like, well, I'm a good businessman, so I'm going to put a ridiculously high price on it, and then we're going to negotiate down. And no one takes him seriously. Literally no Asian leaders especially take him seriously. They'll take photos with him, but, behind those smiles are, this guy's ridiculous. Just shake your head, yes, and then get back to work. So I think that's the biggest difference we'll see right away, at least an immediate change that happens. But overall, too, I think it'll be a stronger relationship with South Korea because the alliance ships, our relationships with our allies, have been a little bit strained since Donald Trump became president. He's become closer to Russia, other dictator-like figures in the world, North Korea, Bolsonaro. I found some common ground there, I guess. But the U.S. has now, in the last couple of years, the U.S. has been looking at it from a more transactional point of view. What do you offer us? What do you give to us? And that's exactly what we saw when we were talking about the cost-sharing burden for South Korea to have U.S. troops on Korean soil. It's like, well, here's what we give you. What are you giving us? And that's never been good for alliances. You need to have some sort of trust and understanding. Alliances should never be a zero-sum game. That's the point of alliances. Sometimes the U.S. will spend more, but maybe they'll get more out of it by having a presence, a U.S. military base in Asia right next to China, which is kind of the reason that we want to be here. It's not us helping South Korea. It partially is, but it's also so that we can have our foot in Asia for when China keeps trying to expand their powers, which they're doing now. And so if you pull them out of Korea because you want to win some kind of bidding war about cost-sharing burdens, you make it easier for China to win. And I think that's just dumb. But overall, I think we'll have a closer relationship with South Korea. Now, there might be a downside to Joe Biden winning. I don't think it's downside in the long term, but I should at least mention it. We might have more tensions in the short term with North Korea and South Korea. Now, recently, North Korea has been, I don't want to say like showing good behavior. There have been some instances recently, like the shooting of a sailor. I don't remember exactly the position, but they did kill a South Korean who I think had fallen off the boat and ended up in the hands of North Korean soldiers, and he was shot. But overall, we haven't seen as many missile tests recently. But I think part of that reason isn't necessarily because Trump is so great. I think it's because Trump's not been paying attention. And Kim Jong-un is like, well, whatever I do, no one's going to care. Trump's not... He said he wants to build a bridge, like really make peace in the Korean peninsula. But once he left the photo op, he didn't really care ever again, if you think about it. What has he done? Nothing. Nothing's changed. And I think, personally, could totally be wrong, Kim Jong-un in his mind, who nobody knows what's going on in his mind, he could just be like, well, anything I do is not going to change anything, so I don't need to do these ballistic missile tests. But I think they said they were preparing for one recently. That was in the news. If Biden becomes president, though, they'll want to do what they always do, which is test the administration, see how far they can push the administration, see how many concessions they can get by promising never to build another ICBM again. What they're not going to do another nuclear bomb test, right? As long as you promise to give us more stuff. So they will test the Biden administration, although I don't know how much they'll test it because the Biden administration probably has a similar line to the Obama administration that they had 4 years ago. So with North Korea, we just never know what might be going on. Yeah, I mean, that's how I would put it. I guess on top of that, the last thing I would say, the biggest change, which is important to every non-American who wants to live and work in America, the biggest change for South Korea-U.S. alliance will actually be on a personal level. Donald Trump is making it harder for a lot of foreign nationals to come and live and work in America. And the reasoning is, xenophobia. But he says it has a lot to do with keeping America safe, keeping American jobs safe, but that's not usually what happens. See, I have friends from that grad school. I got a master's, right? Well, I have friends that went on to get a PhD, and they're in America right now. They're getting their PhD, or they just got their PhD. You don't want to make it harder for Koreans to come to a U.S. program and get a PhD in a U.S. program, help that school out, help educate students at that school. You don't want to make it harder for them to get there because they are kind of the experts. Like a Korean knows something that an American doesn't. That's why building a diverse community at a university is so important. But if you make it harder for Koreans to get their PhD or even to go get their PhD and then fly back and forth between the countries with ease, then that's bad for America. That's like a brain drain or pushing away. It's not even a brain drain. It's just keeping brains out of America. Other jobs, too. We benefit from having immigrants. We benefit from being able to attract a diverse, talent pool. And I'm almost positive, going back to Joe Biden, will help make it easier for my friends, of course, but other Koreans as well, to go work in America. And it's part of the exchange that we have right now. This is why I got to come to Korea, because there are agreements between our two countries. So I think that'll be a nice change, too, if Biden becomes president of the United States. Those are my thoughts on what will change between the U.S. and South Korea, and the U.S. and North Korea, and South Korea and North Korea. If Joe Biden becomes president of the United States, and then subsequently probably Kamala Harris, because I'm guessing Biden may not have 4 years in him, I think, you know what I think. You guys know who I'm supporting in this presidential election. What do you think about it, though? Do you think it's going to be better if Joe Biden becomes president or doesn't become president? How is it going to change anything? Be respectful in the comments. I'm curious. What do you think? Anyway, That's all I got for you today. Stay safe, stay healthy out there, and I will see you next time. Goodbye. Haseyo.